Hey garden fam, welcome back to The Sprout. Today we're talking about one of the smartest and most delicious ways to create privacy in your garden, a raspberry hedge. Imagine this. Instead of an expensive wooden fence or a boring chain link barrier, you have a wall of green, covered in hundreds of sweet, juicy raspberries, blooming with white flowers in spring that bees love, turning brilliant shades of yellow and red in fall. And best of all, it feeds you and your family all summer long. A raspberry hedge is not just a fence, it's a living, breathing, producing part of your garden. It gives you privacy, security, wildlife habitat, and an incredible harvest. And yes, it has thorns, which makes it a pretty good deterrent for unwanted guests. But there are also thornless varieties if you prefer easy harvesting. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know: how to plant a raspberry hedge, spacing, support, pruning, watering, fertilizing, common problems, and how to get the biggest harvest from your living fence. Before we dive in, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We put out new gardening videos every week, and I don't want you to miss the next one. Also, drop a comment below. Have you ever considered a raspberry hedge? Do you already grow raspberries? I'd love to hear about it. Now let's get into it. First, let's talk about why raspberries make such a great hedge. Raspberry canes grow thick and dense. They reach 5 to 6 feet tall, sometimes taller. They spread by underground runners, filling in gaps naturally. The thorns on most varieties create a barrier that animals and people won't want to push through. And then there's the fruit. Raspberries are one of the most beloved summer fruits. You can eat them fresh, freeze them, make jam, bake pies, or add them to smoothies. A hedge of raspberries can produce pounds and pounds of fruit every year. But here's the thing, a raspberry hedge is not a formal, clipped hedge like boxwood. It's blousy, a bit wild, and wonderfully productive. If you want a neat, manicured look, raspberries are not for you. But if you want a natural, abundant, edible boundary, keep watching. Now let's talk about choosing your raspberry varieties. There are two main types. Summer-bearing raspberries produce one large crop in early to mid-summer on canes that grew the previous year. Fall-bearing raspberries produce a crop in late summer to fall on canes that grew earlier in the same year. For a hedge, both work. Some popular summer-bearing varieties are Boyne, Killarney, and Latham. They're cold-hardy and reliable. Popular fall-bearing varieties are Heritage, Caroline, and Polana. They give you fruit later in the season. For a longer harvest, plant both. And here's a game changer. If you want a thornless raspberry hedge, look for varieties like Ruby Beauty, which is a compact, thornless raspberry perfect for smaller hedges. For a taller, more vigorous hedge, consider thornless blackberries or black raspberries, which can grow over 10 feet tall. Now let's talk about site selection. Raspberries need full sun. They need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. In too much shade, they'll produce fewer berries and be more prone to disease. They also need good air circulation to prevent fungal problems. Don't plant them in a low, damp spot where cold air settles. A gentle slope is ideal. Now let's talk about soil. Raspberries prefer well-draining, slightly acidic soil. The ideal pH is between 5.6 and 6.5. Before planting, test your soil. If it's too alkaline, add sulfur or peat moss. If it's too acidic, add lime. Raspberries also need soil rich in organic matter. Mix compost into your planting area. Good drainage is critical. Raspberries hate wet feet. If your soil is heavy clay, plant them in raised beds or on mounds. Now let's talk about spacing. For a dense, solid hedge, plant raspberries closer together than you would for individual plants. Space plants about 18 to 24 inches apart. If you want a really thick hedge, plant in 2 staggered rows. The rows should be about 18 to 24 inches apart. Stagger the plants so they fill the gaps. For dwarf varieties like Ruby Beauty, which only grow to about 3 feet tall, you can plant closer, about 12 to 15 inches apart. They also don't need as much support. Now let's talk about planting. The best time to plant raspberries is early spring, as soon as the ground can be worked. You can also plant in fall in mild climates. Dig a trench or individual holes. Space your plants as we discussed. Plant them at the same depth they were growing in their pots. Don't plant too deep. The crown should be just above soil level. Water thoroughly after planting. Mulch with straw, wood chips, or compost to suppress weeds and retain moisture. Now let's talk about support. Raspberries need support. Their canes can get tall and heavy with fruit. Without support, they'll flop over, making harvest difficult and increasing disease risk. For a hedge, the best support is a simple 2-wire trellis. Drive sturdy posts into the ground at the ends of your hedge, and every 20 to 30 feet along the hedge. The posts should be about 5 feet tall. Stretch 2 wires or strong twine between the posts, one at about 30 inches from the ground and one at about 4.5 feet. As the canes grow, loosely tie them to the wires with soft plant ties. For dwarf varieties like Ruby Beauty, you may not need support at all, but a simple ring or small stakes can help keep them upright. Now let's talk about containing the spread. This is important. Raspberries spread by underground runners. In a hedge, this is actually good. It fills in gaps, but you don't want them spreading into your lawn or your neighbor's yard. To control spread, install a root barrier along the edges of your hedge. Use heavy plastic or metal edging buried at least 12 inches deep. Alternatively, plant your hedge in a raised bed or between mowed paths. Mowing regularly on both sides of the hedge will keep runners in check. Some gardeners also recommend digging a trench and inserting barriers, like slate or plastic sheets, to prevent uncontrolled growth. Now let's talk about watering. Raspberries need consistent moisture, especially during flowering and fruiting. Water deeply once a week during dry spells. In hot weather, you may need to water more often. The key is to keep the soil evenly moist but not waterlogged. Drip irrigation or soaker hoses are ideal. They deliver water directly to the roots without wetting the leaves, which helps prevent disease. Avoid overhead watering. Now, let's talk about fertilizing. Raspberries are heavy feeders. In early spring, apply a balanced fertilizer like 10-10-10. Use about 5 pounds per 100 feet of hedge. After the harvest, apply another light feeding. Avoid high nitrogen fertilizers. They promote soft, leafy growth at the expense of fruit. Organic options include composted manure, fish emulsion, or a balanced organic fertilizer. Now, let's talk about pruning. This is the most important part of maintaining a raspberry hedge. Pruning keeps your hedge productive and healthy. Here's the system. For summer-bearing raspberries, prune right after harvest. Remove the canes that just fruited. They're done. Cut them to the ground. They won't produce again. Leave the new green canes that grew this year. They'll be your fruiting canes for next year. In late winter or early spring, thin the remaining canes. Leave the strongest canes, spaced about 6 to 8 inches apart. Cut out any weak, spindly, or damaged canes. Also cut off any dead tips. For fall-bearing raspberries, you have 2 options. For 2 crops, prune like summer bearers. For 1 large fall crop, simply cut all canes to the ground in late winter. New canes will grow and fruit in fall. For a hedge, the cut everything method is easiest and keeps the hedge tidy. Now let's talk about common problems. Let's go through them one by one. Problem 1. No fruit or very little fruit. For summer bearers, you may have pruned at the wrong time. They fruit on second-ear canes. Don't cut them all down. For fall bearers, lack of sun is often the issue. Problem 2. Small, dry berries. Not enough water. Water deeply during fruiting. Problem 3. Yellow leaves. Can be overwatering, poor drainage, or nutrient deficiency. Check your soil. Problem 4. Brown, crispy leaf edges. Underwatering or salt buildup from fertilizer. Water deeply. Flush the soil. Problem 5. Powdery mildew. White powder on leaves, caused by high humidity and poor air circulation. Space plants properly. Prune for airflow. Water at the base. Problem 6. Cane borer. Wilted tips on canes. Cut off the affected tips several inches below the wilted area. Destroy them. Problem 7. Raspberry beetles. Small worms in the fruit. Remove infested berries. Use insecticidal soap or neem oil. Problem 8. Spider mites. Fine webbing on leaves. Increase humidity or use neem oil. Problem 9. Birds eating your berries. Birds love raspberries. Use bird netting over your hedge during fruiting season. Scare tape or reflective objects can help but are less reliable. Here's where you come in. Drop a comment below. Are you inspired to plant a raspberry hedge? What variety are you thinking about? I'd love to know. Now let's talk about the benefits beyond fruit. A raspberry hedge is a wildlife haven. The spring flowers feed bees and other pollinators. The dense canes provide nesting sites for small birds. The fruit feeds birds and small mammals, though you'll want to protect some for yourself. And the thorns provide security. A raspberry hedge is not easy to push through. It's a natural barrier that keeps people and animals out. Now let's talk about how to make your hedge look good. Yes, raspberries are blousy, but they can still be beautiful. Plant them in a straight line, use consistent spacing, keep the support posts neat, prune regularly to remove dead canes, mulch to keep the base tidy. You can also underplant with spring bulbs like daffodils or tulips. They'll bloom before the raspberries leaf out fully. The result is a hedge that's both productive and attractive. Now let's talk about harvesting. Raspberries ripen over several weeks. Pick them when they're fully colored and come off the stem easily. Don't pull hard. If they resist, they're not ready. Harvest in the morning after the dew has dried. Handle them gently, they bruise easily. Put them in a shallow container, not a deep bowl. Eat fresh, freeze for later, make jam, or bake into pies. Let me give you a few quick answers to common questions. How long does a raspberry hedge live? With good care, 10 to 15 years. The individual canes live 2 years, but the root system lives much longer. How much fruit will I get? A mature plant can produce 1 to 2 quarts of berries per season. A hedge produces a lot. Can I plant raspberries next to my vegetable garden? Yes, but keep them separated by a path. Raspberries spread and you don't want them taking over your vegetables. Do raspberries need full sun? Yes, 6 to 8 hours minimum. Will raspberries grow in shade? They'll survive but won't produce much fruit. Let's wrap everything up. A raspberry hedge is one of the most rewarding things you can plant. It gives you privacy, security, beauty, and food. Plant in full sun in well-draining, slightly acidic soil. Space plants 18 to 24 inches apart or closer for dwarf varieties. Use a 2-wire trellis for support. Install root barriers to control spread. Water consistently, especially during fruiting. Fertilize in early spring. Prune summer bearers after harvest. Prune fall bearers in late winter. Protect your berries from birds with netting. Here's the most important thing to remember. A raspberry hedge is a living project. It's not a one-time installation. It needs annual pruning, regular watering, and occasional feeding, but the payoff is incredible. Every summer, you'll walk out your door and pick fresh raspberries from your own fence. That's something no wooden fence can give you. Before you go, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave me a comment. Are you going to plant a raspberry hedge? What's your favorite way to eat raspberries? I'd love to know. Also, what edible hedge should I cover next? Blueberries, currants, honeyberries? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Take care of your garden and it will take care of you. See you in the next video.